remind them that we are getting started. I know today being a Friday, some people already had prior engagements with their clubs, and there's also a cabinet meeting happening. So we do know that we won't be all here this evening, but still message your accountability partner and remind them that we are ready to roll with our session number 3, Leadership Etiquette. We have a 10-week program. We started off with vision, mission, and values. Then last week, session 2 was personal leadership and branding with distinguished Toastmaster Patience Chisanga. And I thoroughly enjoyed the branding and also started re-looking at my own personal branding, as much as looking at the Toastmasters branding for the club that I'm a member of. I don't know about you, what really you took away with you last week. So as we get started, if I may just ask you or remind you to make sure that the name that you have on your Zoom that you're participating with this evening is the same name that you registered with, so that we are able to keep tab and track of who has been attending the sessions. Then going to our discussions from our session last week, which was the personal branding. And we had an assignment that we needed to do. Do we have any feedback in terms of when you went over your notes or when you started doing your assignment, what did you find, or what would you want to share with the rest of the leaders of District 74 and friends of District 74 that also are participating in this program? You can either raise your hand, or if you want to type in the chat box, you can type in the chat box. If you want to raise your hand, and I will unmute you. Whether you've started on the project or you're still working on it, or you've completed it, or if you went through your notes, let's have some feedback on the personal branding. Okay, DTM Gina says uploaded. And maybe if you may want to share, okay, Gracious, Toastmaster Gracious, I see your hand.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and mute.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I loved it. I loved the energy. I've uploaded my assignment, and as someone who is in the process of branding myself, I found it very, very useful. And especially, I think one of the things that I was battling with in terms of content, I always feel like it's too much to give content on a daily basis. You need to give a break, piece by piece, as you're giving the cake to your audience. So I agreed with her, and at least with my line of thinking, since I'm not coming from a social media as an expert. So I loved it. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Gracious, for your feedback. Toastmaster Alicia, I see your hand. You can unmute.
Thank you so much, Zavi. I really enjoyed this project. I haven't completed it in full, but from what I've learned and from the previous project with the mission, vision, and values, I see how it's all intertwined. And an experience happened this week, and I'm thankful for this project to see what my values are, what I identify with, so I know basically things that I should be going towards or I should not be going towards. And I had a conversation with someone else, and they're not a Toastmaster, and they kept bringing up the point of, branding and their values and their missions, and showing how that helped to navigate certain life choices, certain decision making, certain associates. So having it on paper, putting it into practice has been helpful to see who it is that I am as a person, what it is that I'm letting out, who my identity is, so I can know what to identify with, to say.
Great, thank you so much, Toastmaster Alicia, for your feedback. Toastmaster Aliyah.
Distinguished Toastmasters of I thoroughly enjoyed the session. I think a lot came out of it where I had an opportunity to reflect and trying to understand what I'm putting out there and projecting with regards to my personal life versus my professional life. And how do I want my brand to look moving forward? I've completed the assignment, but you know that assignment where you do the entire thing and you recheck it and you want to double check, is it authentic? Is it you? Are you on the right track? So I'm at that stage at the moment to conclude my assignment, but I think it's been really worthwhile for me as an individual, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster.
Great, thank you so much for your feedback. Anyone else would want to give us feedback whilst I also just check in the chat box? Okay, Toastmaster Hannah, the exercise helped me define my identity and put it into a few words. Toastmaster Dadiso, I have completed my assignment, and during the process, I learned that I need to separate my personal life from my professional life. Toastmaster Maralise, have already submitted it. This assignment gave me some food for thought. Had to take in a depth at myself and was surprised at what I found. Toastmaster Mpo, it was quite an interesting assignment. It opened my eyes beyond what I expected in terms of personal branding. I know who I am now and willing to uncover more. Toastmaster Nomonde, I found the session quite informative. I am working on it. I love that it needs to speak to your value system. I am still pondering on what to put out there. Thank you all for your feedback. Anyone else with a hand raised? Toastmaster Penny, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right, I had to park on the side for that. As I've hijacked the program, thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster. One thing that
You've muted Toastmaster Penny.
Oh wow, I wonder what happened. It's the driving on the way, that's why perhaps. Now I was just saying that I could align with the assignment so much in the sense that I can call myself an ambassador of the self-identity. It actually gave me a broader aspect in terms of understanding a bit more in terms of analyzing each person, I mean yourself as a person, and that the assignment itself gave me a better understanding. So I'm actually on it and I'm finalizing it as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for your feedback. Anyone else who would want to unmute and tell us their feedback on personal branding and the assignment that we had? Toastmaster Lorna says, I've completed and uploaded it. I am one of those people who wears many hats and I have good self-knowledge. So I found it quite challenging to provide a concise and nicely refined and defined personal brand. My personal brand is also quite interlinked with my work life. This assignment has given me a good foundation to work on going forward. Thank you for your feedback, Toastmaster Lorna. Any other volunteers? Or we haven't had a chance to look at the assignment as yet, because I know life does get in the way. But what I will still encourage you to do is, if you had missed the session, go through the recording, work through the assignment, because each week or each session that we get to do, we are building from on the previous session. So at the end of the 10 weeks, you definitely will have upskilled yourself in terms of your leadership skills, in your leadership development, and not only for Toastmasters, but even for outside Toastmasters, be it in the organization that you work for or in your business. So these skills are truly transferable skills. From the feedback we were getting from those that gave feedback, they actually have understood what having a personal brand means, and they are starting to develop and to work on their personal brand. I had one question that came through late this afternoon, and I'm going to put it out to you, and hopefully someone can then assist. The question was that this particular Toastmaster had recorded her assignment on her phone, but she needs to upload it from her laptop. And she was asking how can she do that in terms of then getting the video from her phone to then get it onto the laptop to then upload into the Google Drive. And I'm sure that question will, other people may have had the question, but had not asked the question. So for our tech savvy people, I'm putting the question out to you so that we can assist one another. Okay, Toastmaster Francois says, email yourself. Toastmaster Gina, same thing, email it to herself, open the email on laptop, save and upload. Okay, and what if the video, the size is too big to be emailed? Toastmaster Hannah, I see your hand.
Okay, hello. Hi. So I want to ask why she wants to transfer it from her phone to from the laptop to the phone.
Okay, I'm not sure. It was an email. The question was emailed.
Okay, so
I
it
then
could
had
be
gotten
that.
to respond.
Okay, so it could be internet issues. So if it's internet issues, she can tether if she's using mobile, she can tether her phone to the laptop, because I think that's easier. Yeah, it just seems, for me, I think uploading from your laptop is the easier choice almost always. And yes, like this person is saying, you can compress the video and then just upload it to the Google Drive. So I mean, there's quite a number of things. She can get in touch with me, maybe if she needs help directly, and then we can do a Zoom session for it. But yeah, it's actually better to upload from your laptop than from your phone.
Great, thank you so much, Toastmaster Hannah. Toastmaster L.E.A., you have your hand up.
Hi, I actually found it easier from my phone directly. So I just did my video on my phone, went to the link of the drive that you sent, and I just put it on there. It was quite straightforward. So I didn't even go to my laptop at all. So it's quite doable from her phone. She doesn't even need her laptop.
Great,
and I'm also willing
thank
to
you
help
so
sessions to reach out, just like Hannah, I'm available.
Great, thank you so much, Toastmaster L.E.A., for volunteering, and Toastmaster Hannah as well. And so with our strengths and the skills that we have as a group, don't ever hesitate to put your hand up or to step forward to say, can I assist with this or can I assist with that? So I want to appreciate those that have been coming forward and assisting in the various areas, because at the end of the day, we can only be stronger as a group. So thank you so much, everyone. And it's time for our facilitation for today. And our facilitator for leadership etiquette is a distinguished Toastmaster. She's a management consultant and has been in Toastmasters for 12 years. During her time in Toastmasters, she has taken on many leadership roles, including past district director and past region advisor for Africa. Toastmaster Sandra, distinguished Toastmaster Sandra, loves leadership and has been active in training and facilitating, not only in Africa, but in America and in Asia. If you can all help me give a warm welcome to distinguished Toastmaster Sandra Cooper, who is taking us through leadership etiquette. Toastmaster Sandra.
Thank you so much, Program Director Zivai, and thank you for the warm welcome. If you have ever seen me around, you would perhaps think I'm a very unlikely leader. And that's because I am quiet, I am an introvert, I stay in the background. And I'm here today to say that there are many, many leadership styles. And one of the most important parts of leadership is leadership etiquette. If you get that right, you build relationships, you build a leadership presence, and you really can influence the people that you lead. I am going to be giving a presentation, so I'm going to share my screen, and I would love for this to be interactive. I think everybody will have the availability to actually unmute. So if you do have something as we're going along, that would be wonderful. And here we are. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it. And if you could then have it in slideshow. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. There we go. As you can see, this is a wonderful photo of myself, probably round about the time when I joined Toastmasters. It's the one that I love. It's when I was youthful and vibrant and just starting out on my leadership journey. And I just loved that I was in that top, which lasted quite a long time. At that stage, I didn't wear a jacket. Now you'll see I have progressed to jackets. And that's something that we're going to be talking about as we go along. What we hope to cover as we go through this particular program is talk a little bit about first impressions and about your style as a leader. Also talk about essential etiquette, and that's really what the core focus is going to be on, together with some talk around virtual etiquette, because we have been thrown into being online, together with reputation and character. And I think as we go through this program, we will build on different things like communication in leadership and also reputation and character. So we won't spend a lot of time on that. So first of all, you'll see a statement on the screen and there's a word missing. What is that word that is missing?
Impression.
Anybody? Fantastic, yes.
Impression.
Lovely. So you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Is that true?
Yes.
Not true. Not true or true? Why is it true? First of all, let's hear why we feel that it might be true. Who would like to have a go at that? Is it true that you never get a second chance to make a first impression? Hannah, you have raised your hand. Please go ahead.
I think the first impression is the first impression. Even if someone then meets you for the second time with a new impression, it's now a new impression. It's not really the first impression. So it's either the second time people meet you, it's either you debunk the first impression or you enforce it.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. And do first impressions last based on that response? Do you think that your first impression will last forever?
Not really.
Not really. And why would that be?
Because sometimes the person, when you have a second impression, when you meet the person the second time, they might change. You might one step up from your boo-boos from the previous, from your first impression, and therefore make up. But I think then that overrides who you become beyond that.
Great. Thank you. Yes, so first impressions don't necessarily last. Sometimes you meet someone and they give an amazing first impression. And the more you see them, the more you revise what you thought from that first impression. And it can be either good or not so good. All that glitters is not gold, or so they say. And leadership is a little bit about building on a continuous journey so that you create a lasting good impression. And so how do you create a lasting impression?
By showing up all the time, on time.
Great. That's great. Showing up on the time, every time. Lovely.
Consistency, being consistent.
Being consistent. Lovely. Yes.
Being honest and trustworthy.
Honest and trustworthy. That's good. Yes.
I think being authentic.
Authentic. Lovely.
Showing up with a great energy.
With a great energy. Yes. Showing up with a great energy. Lovely. That's great. So I think we have said that you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and that impression can either be good or not so good, but you do get an opportunity to build a lasting impression. And in leadership, when you build a lasting impression, it's called leadership presence. So what is leadership presence all about? The good news is that leadership presence is a set of skills that anyone can develop. You don't actually have to be born a leader. And in Toastmasters, we know that this is where leaders are made. And these leadership skills that you are going to hear about today and the etiquette that you can apply it anywhere, and it will help you build a solid foundation on leadership. Every person has different skills. You have inside of you your own particular gifts, your own talents, your own skills, and of course your own personality. And every leadership journey is different. And there is a leader within you. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. 100%.
Yes.
Lovely. Lovely. And so leadership presence is about developing on that first impression. And it is about being consistent. It's a continuous journey. And I think this is particularly important, that it's not a destination. Leadership is always about the process and the continuous, consistent journey that you travel along with the people that you are leading. And I think it was Frank that said when he was talking about values and the vision and mission and the values, you manage things, but you definitely lead people. So it's a consistent, continuous journey of leading people, perhaps to a destination because of the vision, but definitely it's something that you travel together. And leadership presence takes into account everything that can be seen. It can be how you act, what you say, and how you say it. And this is where etiquette comes in. To begin with, let's just talk a little bit about style. First impressions, what do you see on the screen now?
Formal.
Formal, yes.
Professionalism.
Professionalism, yes.
Engaged.
Engaged, yes.
Mutual respect.
Yes, yes, thank you.
I see confidence.
Confidence.
There's a sense of comfort.
Connection.
Great, a sense of connection. Lovely. So it's amazing how we can easily form a first impression. And when I was looking for photos of style and business professional, it's very surprising that this is mostly the type of photo that came up. I even typed in African business attire, and still it came up with a typical suit, formal business attire. Is there a lot of jewelry or distractions with the attire?
No, it's very clean.
Very clean, clean cut, tidy, nicely put together. And what you wear quite often creates your style. And I know that we are in Africa, so we have a lot of opportunity to change that. Because when we go into Toastmasters meetings, we want to create our own sense of style. And I have seen a lot of style which is in African print. And even our cabinet, let's just have a look at our cabinet team leaders. Can you see them here? This particular photo, they decided that their colors for the year are going to be black, red, and white. But it's not a prescribed uniform as such. It's a bonding of the team together. As you can see, they have all presented their own particular style, but in the colors that they have agreed on. And inside the team environment, I think it's very important that you bond together as a team. Would you say that the way that the district leaders are dressed there is suitable for the occasion that they were at? Or perhaps you can even guess what the occasion was.
It looks like an award ceremony.
Yes, I think it was an awards ceremony. It was perhaps even when they were being inducted into their leadership roles. They were very happy. It was a very happy evening. So yes, I feel that they were suitably addressed. It was lovely. And you can see that there are some kind of rules around your style. Typically in business, you would be modest. You would dress modestly. You know, in particular for women, we tend to cover up as much as we can because our clothing is just the introduction. It's not actually the conversation. And I think the same goes for men as well. They put themselves together so that it creates a first impression and it's not going to cause any conversation or gossip behind the scenes. They are representing themselves and representing the brand as well. And as was previously mentioned, when you show up, the first time you show up, it is great to have a great attitude and display appropriate amounts of energy as well, because energy and enthusiasm are contagious. Even if you're quiet, you can have a quiet energy. I tend to think that my energy is quiet, that I have a quiet energy. And when I show up, that is what I try to portray. So if do we have any questions about style and first impressions? How we should dress? Seems nothing, no comments. Oh, Edith. Yes, Edith.
You just said quiet energy, and I just want you to elaborate more on that because I struggle to fit in. Especially when you say you must bring the energy and enthusiasm, even if you are quiet. So if you can just elaborate on that.
All right, that's lovely. It's a great question. Thank you. So when I go into a room, I don't make a big splash. Some leaders who are extroverts may make a big splash and use their authentic energy to be noticed in the room. The way that I typically bring my energy into a room is that I will greet people in passing, as I pass them, if I know them, I will smile. I will show that I am listening to them, that I am really engaged with them. So it's a quiet energy. People know that I'm there, but I'm not making a big noise about it, if that helps. And Edith, I know you. You have also got a quiet energy and a presence. So be confident in that. Does that help,
No.
Edith?
No, it does. It does. Thank you.
Good. Great. So we are going to go through basically 9 tips of how to behave in terms of how to have essential etiquette tools and foundations, and how that will help you to develop a leadership presence. And for some of you, this might actually be repetition. So let's first of all make sure that we're all on the same page. What is etiquette? What do you believe that etiquette is? What does it mean? And unfortunately, I can't see the chat, so maybe. What is etiquette? Anybody like to give? Yes.
Yes. Etiquette, I think it means the acceptable behavior, the standard behavior that is acceptable by the society.
Great. That's a good description. Anybody else?
I think it's Penny. I think it's manners.
Manners, good manners. Yes. Anything else?
Yes, I think I was about to say another word that, or another phrase that comes to me is not being offensive.
Is that not being authentic? Offensive. Yes, not being offensive. That's good.
Appropriate behavior for that particular occasion.
Great. Yes, appropriate behavior. Lovely. Gina, I see you've got your arm raised. Gina. And maybe
it is the code of polite behavior according to the customs of the people that you're with.
Great. Yes, lovely. And did we have somebody else whose hand was raised? Because I'm on PowerPoint, I can't actually see that.
Okay, I wanted to also say it's the manner of presentation. The expected manner of presentation in a space and time.
Lovely. Yes. So we've really got some good descriptions there about what etiquette is. And it is, you've got it right. From the various descriptions, I can see we have a strong understanding of exactly what etiquette is all about. It's a code of conduct for positive human interactions. It's basically how we treat each other and how we want to be treated. And it's all about creating an environment where others feel comfortable. And if you're in that kind of environment, the behavior is known or it's acceptable. It's about basically how you treat others and how others treat you. So just as appearance sends a very strong message, so does our etiquette and our manners. And being well-mannered all the time, every time that you show up, believe it or not, actually takes a lot of discipline, self-discipline. And why do we think that might be? Why would it take some discipline to be well-mannered all the time?
Because life gets in the way and we are sometimes tired and people can be not so gentle with each other.
That's right. Yes, life definitely gets in the way. We might have had a bad day. Nomandi, please go ahead.
I think yes, Sandra, thank you. I think sometimes there might be even a differing of opinions when we are gathered together. but having developed or cultivated that discipline then helps you.
That's great. Yes, it does indeed. That self-discipline, particularly if there is some disagreement sometimes, and I'm confident that there will be something in this program about conflict resolution, but quite often you have to focus on the issue that people have, not the personalities involved, so that you don't lose your temper and you don't respond in the manner to which they are treating you. Do we have anyone else that has a raised hand? Sigrid, yes.
I just want to say, Francois mentions in the chat, my question is, what if we miss an opportunity for growth with some who may not dress in jacket and tie? Not everyone shows up in formal corporate attire.
Great. Thank you, Francois. Thank you, Sigrid, for giving me that question. And in fact, if someone could just monitor the chat box, that would be helpful. It's quite correct that not everyone has the characteristics or the personality to be in business attire all the time. And indeed, we see this inside Toastmasters clubs as an example. Each club has its own culture. So for example, I belong to Benoni Club. When I joined Benoni Club, all the men wore jackets and all the women wore jackets. It has relaxed to some extent now. It was very, very formal, to the extent that there was someone who would say, after the toasts had been given, the gentlemen may now remove their jackets. So you can understand what kind of culture and environment Benoni Toastmasters had at that particular point in time. So to get back to the question was, what if you are going to miss out on a leadership opportunity because you're not dressed like that? So I would say to find a club, if it's Toastmasters, to find a club where the culture is a little bit more relaxed, so that you do have that leadership opportunity, so that people do see the potential within you and offer you a leadership role, and so that you can actually feel comfortable where you are. For example, if you typically would wear jeans and a shirt and you're comfortable in that and there's nothing wrong with that, then choose an environment where that is appropriate and you feel comfortable and the people around you feel comfortable. And in fact, that's how it can be. Not every meeting has to be totally business professional. There's business casual and there's also casual. And you just agree what the dress code is going to be. Does that help answer the question? And if we are really fair about this, not everybody can afford a jacket. And they have got really good leadership potential. So we have to be aware of that. Sigrid.
Yes, okay, Anna makes the remark, I don't remember Nelson Mandela in a tie. Okay, and Gina says business professional is currently a waist up.
All right, well, that's lovely. And thank you for those comments. And you're quite correct. Nelson Mandela, he created his own unique style. And as I've said, also that we're in Africa. So there are many people inside our meetings who wear African attire. And we have had conferences where the dress code was totally African attire. So I would say, from a first impressions point of view, depending on where you are going to be, dress appropriately and create your own style. And yes, if a person does feel that business attire is a waste of time, obviously you will find somewhere where you fit in and you feel comfortable, and so do those around you.
If I may,
sorry, can I make a comment on the
Yes,
waist up one? The one
Yes.
that this person made. I think I read it differently. I think she's let me see the name. It's Gina, who says business professional is currently waist up. And she also put an emoji for laughing. I think she's saying that all you need to do is look good from the top, because we are using Zoom. So you can have your pajama bottoms and your jacket and tie because of the Zoom. I think it was meant to be tongue in cheek.
Okay, all right. That does sound like Gina. Thank you. Thank you so much for that clarity. I'm happy to hear that. Was there one more person and then we'll move on? It just shows you how communication, if you're not reading the words and you're listening, waste and waste, spelt differently, but can have two different interpretations. So that's really good to know. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the tips. I'm going to provide 9 different tips, and some of it might be revision for you. Some of it might be brand new. You may take away 1 or 2 things that you can apply as you go forward in this program, or even in your social life or in your business life. The most important tip, perhaps, is that when you greet people, you smile, and you smile an authentic smile, a smile that goes all the way to your eyes, because people can see a fake smile. The mouth smiles, but it doesn't reach the eyes. When it reaches the eyes crease here, and you can really see that it's a genuine smile. And it's so easy to engage people as you walk into a room with a smile. And a heartfelt, genuine smile makes people want to connect with you. And it transcends space and accelerates that connection. Any comments around that smile? And it's hard to smile if you've had a bad day. I know. We did talk a little earlier that it takes a lot of discipline to be able to smile if you've had perhaps a bad day at work. You just have to get your mind back into a positive place. So the very first tip is to smile. Smile often. It brightens your face, it lights up the room, it builds connections. Next, we have some magic words. Magic words, which are the foundation of good manners, something that most of us have been brought up with. Please, thank you, sorry, or I'm sorry. And that's a hard one. If you have made some kind of mistake, to be able to apologize and say, I'm sorry, it takes nothing away from you by being able to apologize. In fact, people perceive you and see you as a stronger person. And in leadership, there are going to be times when you will need to apologize. Perhaps someone could give an example of when that's happened in their life, in your life. Nothing that comes to mind? What other magic words do we have in our arsenal of vocabulary? Yes, Alicia.
Just to make sure, you're saying to give an example of a time you had to apologize?
Mm-hmm.
And okay. So it's a very funny story. I had a meeting scheduled with my manager, and at the same time, he was giving a briefing with another new recruitee that was coming in, and I just started to share information that I think wasn't supposed to be shared at that point. And he was trying to signal it, but it was just a mix of communication that was happening. So afterwards, I went into my office and I was sitting thinking to myself, I think I did a oopsie. So I went back to him afterwards, after he finished his discussion, and I went to him and I said, I'm sorry for kind of barging into your office. That wasn't the polite thing to do. And then that I just felt like that weight was just lifted off because I went back and apologized. I could have just moved on, but the apology just mended the communication issue that happened.
Yes, that's great. That's a really good example. Thank you. And how did he react to the apology or the I'm sorry?
He received the apology. He said, you know, that he's thankful that I came and apologized. And I just realized afterwards the relationship between us, the dynamic between us changed. I was more open to receiving the feedback from him, and he was more open into listening to what I had to say.
That's lovely. Yes. And these are magic words. It does help you to build those relationships. So perhaps another one is, excuse me. If you're just moving through a room, pardon me, please may I go past? Those kind of things are also very valuable. Naomi, yes, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I once went to a store and I was looking for something. I sent the manager of the store thinking he was just one of the ordinary workers. Then I noticed how the other people were looking at me. And when he came back, that's when I realized he was actually the manager. I went to apologize, but he was okay with it.
Lovely. And that's a servant leader. He would not make you feel that you had made a mistake. He would just be very gracious. So well done on that. Those are two lovely examples. And in your leadership journey, there are going to be some, if not many, instances whereby something is going to go wrong. And it takes a lot of courage to accept responsibility and then just go and say, I'm sorry. So those you can put as tips. When are you going to use them? Are you going to use them more often? And see what a difference it makes in your relationships and in your life. Here is the same picture because these two people were perhaps walking down the corridor together, but they could have been passing strangers or passing colleagues. And one really great tip is, even if you're distracted and you're thinking about what you're going to be saying in the meeting, if you pass somebody, to stop and say, good morning, how are you doing? Or even use their name. If you use their name, it makes a person feel special. If someone says to me, for example, good morning, Sandra, or good morning, Sandy, or as opposed to good morning, I feel that extra special touch of good morning, Sandra, it makes my morning. It makes me smile. It really does help to build that connection. And names are very important, and it's quite a responsibility to get the name right. How do people remember names? What would you do if you got a name terribly wrong? How would you recover that situation? Quite often, the person that you've said good morning to or called by an incorrect pronunciation of the name may let it pass, and at some appropriate moments may just give you an indication of how best to pronounce that name. For me, because I was raised in the UK, some of the African names are quite difficult for me. And I had a situation, I'm in the Mentors Without Borders program, and one of the mentors in my team has a very difficult first name. And so he said to me very graciously, please call me by my surname because that's what everybody else does. He actually made me feel better about it and gave me an option of how to say his name and not actually annoy him. Let's put it that way. Because we're in Toastmasters, quite often we are surrounded by people that have got titles, not just in Toastmasters. It could also be in your business environment or even in the social community. And for example, and I'm going to use this example again, Mentors Without Borders. I'm quite new to the program. And so I haven't really bonded with the people in the team. I was communicating with someone on WhatsApp and only had a first name. When I looked the person up on Facebook, I discovered that the person has a PhD, and I should have been respectfully calling this person doctor. It happens from time to time. So I feel that if you learn a little bit about the people that you are communicating with and honor and respect their titles so that they understand that you have respect for them. But it works the other way. What happens if you are the one with the title and people don't know it or don't mention it? As a leader, how would you respond? Hannah, yes, Hannah?
Okay, I guess this is very different. It depends on you as an individual and where you are. But personally, I don't mind not having the title. I actually feel that titles can be heavy, but it's an individual thing. And it all depends also how long you have to know someone. And if that person is new, I think it's important to just give them leeway. There's no need to be rash or snappy with them to say, look, I'm a doctor and I've got my PhD, I've earned my stripes and whatever. I feel like proper leader will just let someone else say it on your behalf. So for example, if you go to a conference and then someone just says, oh, Hannah, hi, hello, Hannah, nice to meet you. And then someone says, oh no, she recently got her PhD. That's, I feel, it's etiquette.
Lovely. Yes, that's good. To be humble. Thank you. I see that we have got, I think, Edith and then Alicia have both raised their hands. So we'll go with Edith first and then Alicia.
No, I have a question. I just want to ask, in African culture, you address somebody older than you as a mom or something. So I'm just wondering, in Toastmaster forums, when you call on somebody who's older than you, do you still use Mom Edith, for an example? It sounds, I don't know, somehow, unlike, I see a lot of clubs are using Toastmaster Edith, which makes it a little bit better, but other people are so stuck on Mom, and which I understand is the culture, the respectful way of addressing an older person.
Yes.
So what is the correct etiquette?
I think it would depend as well inside your club, whether to say that it is acceptable for everyone to be called Toastmaster and then the first name, and that helps that person become accustomed to that way of addressing you. It could well be, though, that is an inbred culture that's going to be very difficult to get over. And I think you have to just accept that some people are going to call you ma'am until they become confident enough to call you Toastmaster Edith. That's a choice that you would be able to make inside your club. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I think just accept the different culture and that it is respectful and just go with that. Thank you. Alicia.
Thank you so much. These are really very thought-provoking questions, but I have two things to add. Or the question I would first start with. In some cultures, something like a title means something different in a different culture. So I've had persons address me because I'm married and they would say Mrs. And someone has addressed me mistress. In their culture, they would call the wife mistress. So they kept addressing me mistress. So I had to, inform the person at a later point in private. Mistress means something different in my culture than what it would
Oh,
it
yes.
would mean in your culture. So sometimes there's that dynamic concerning titles that it means something completely different. Also, for me, I work in a medical college, so I would assume everyone is a doctor. So until I'm not sure who the person is, I just address everyone as doctor. So for like
Lovely.
Toastmasters, I would just address everyone Toastmaster this until I get some clear indication, like maybe this is a distinguished Toastmaster, but I would just be very broad or very vague and just say Toastmaster, whoever the person is.
Lovely. Yes, that's a really good way to overcome that. And quite often it can be a language translation that then translates from their language into mistress. And I think you handled that very well. Well done on that. And it's nice that you could take the person aside quietly and then just mention it to them so that they didn't repeat that, going forward. So that was well done. Lovely. Good. I think we're making good progress. So respect the titles, but be understanding if someone doesn't use your title. Be humble and have humility and understand that the person has not done that deliberately. It's just an oversight. Yes, Sigrid.
Okay, Francois mentions here, leave it as it is. Miles Monroe said, work towards just your first name. If you are not addressed by the title, okay.
Sorry
about that.
That's okay.
If you are not addressed by the title, it means you are a true leader and not dependent on the title to make you.
Lovely. Those are some really good comments. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that everybody else that is participating in the chat, it means that you're keeping a dialogue along with everybody else that's on the call this evening. So the next one, and this was before COVID hit us, it's about having a very firm handshake. When you meet somebody, typically you would shake hands, and there is a way to shake hands. Typically you would look the person in the eye, and it would be the professional way down at the bottom. But there are many, many ways to shake hands. Some people take control by dominating the handshake, and others give control by allowing someone to dominate the handshake. Perhaps one of the best handshakes is where you put your other hand on top so that it's like a friendship handshake. And this is something that you can actually Google and look at and find out what the different types of handshakes mean. Obviously, we're not going to be doing this anytime soon because of COVID, and we have to keep our social distance, but it's worth knowing so that when you go forward. And in this particular photo, you'll see that they weren't actually looking into each other's eyes as they did the handshake. They were looking at the camera. So perhaps this is a way not to do a handshake, but they obviously found a nice distraction to get this photo opportunity. In some cultures as well, people hug. And I would say that because of COVID, we definitely have to be very cautious now about how we hug, who we hug. And I would suggest you hug with caution because of personal space. And some people like to hug and others are not very keen on it. For example, when I first started in Toastmasters, I would shake hands because it was a formal club. And I would keep my distance. I wasn't very comfortable hugging people that I didn't really know. So I think, what are your thoughts around that? It can be a lot to do with company culture if you're inside an organization. And are you supposed to announce that you're going to give a person a hug so that they can either step back or offer their hand? How do you think that should be played? Alicia, I think I saw your hand again.
Oh no, that's a phantom hand. Sorry.
Is it a phantom hand? There are two. It's okay. There are two hands raised. I can't actually see who they are. Faso, let's try Faso. We haven't heard from you yet this evening. If you'd like to unmute.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you repeat your question?
I was talking about hugging with caution. Obviously, we are in COVID at the moment, so typically we won't be going around hugging people, but some people are uncomfortable with hugging. Do you think that hugs are acceptable in a business environment, or how should we go about establishing that?
Personally, I think that with hugs, it depends on culture. Because for an example, like American people and the African people, they don't really care about culture, but the European people, they don't like hug. I think that when the relation gets much deeper, in that way we can start hugging.
Right.
But in business, when your partner or your interlocutor starts to like the way you said, they hug you, and I think that that's okay, in my opinion.
Yes, that's good. So you would most probably be open to a hug, and your body language would show that, so that people can gauge by the body language. Quite often as well in other cultures, sometimes to greet, they kiss you on the cheek, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times. I think in the Middle East, it's a greeting of 3 kisses, and that is their culture, and it's totally acceptable. So yes, hug with caution, that would be my suggestion. We had somebody else who raised a hand. If you could please unmute.
Hi, so Sandra, mine is for 2 things. One was extend a firm handshake. So I'm often put in that position when you're meeting people, and especially in a professional setting. I've had to learn how to communicate to the next person that I don't necessarily do a handshake, and it's due to religious views and just out of respect for my religion and myself, I prefer for you not to sort of give me a handshake. But
Great.
It can get quite challenging. And I think the same thing also comes with the hug with caution. I might be someone who likes to give hugs, but the next person doesn't. I've often went the route of, could I hug you? Because I just had to get direct, because I couldn't necessarily read the body language and I didn't necessarily know the person. So I literally went in with the question of, I like hugs. Could I hug you? If not, I'm fine with that. And, you got to respect the person's personal space. But is there any other way on how to better handle it without directly asking the question, but also with regards to handshakes when it's from a religious perspective? How do you make the other person understand without offending them?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I would, and it's something that I haven't actually heard, so I would be open to suggestions on that. But typically, if a person extends their hand and you have to say, I'm so sorry, use those magic words. I'm so sorry, my religion does not allow for handshakes. And I think that person would understand. Alternatively, I don't think it's rude to not offer to take a proffered hand. I think probably you're better off now in COVID times because we bump elbows and but maybe that's also, you don't touch people that you don't really know. It might be part of your religious belief. So I think just to be open, honest, and just to say it, in a matter of fact way, with a smile, to say, I'm so sorry, but my religion does not allow me to do handshakes. And I think the person would understand that. I think that's the only way to get around that. But there may be others who have other ideas. Thank you for that question and for that insight. Thank you. Do we have any other comments around that or questions around that?
Sandra, can I comment on that?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I've met people who don't shake hands, but what they do, they put their hands together in front of them. And then that's like a sign that I don't shake hands. So the first time I saw, I understood.
That's lovely. So it's like a
Yes.
greeting, something like that. Good. That's a good way to get around that. Thank you. Do we have somebody else who would like to make a comment or a question?
Yes, it's Marlene speaking. Hi.
Hi.
Just want to share something interesting. I'm in the hospitality industry, and obviously we're very sociable. And I'm now talking about before COVID hit us. We would, obviously I work at head office, and when you travel to the properties or the resorts, you would give your fellow colleagues a hug, but also your head office colleagues. You might sit in the desk next to them, but you don't hug them at head office. But for some reason, I think because travel and you're away from head office, that's our culture. You hug one another. And yeah, I just wanted to share it. So it all depends on obviously what the company culture is. Obviously with COVID, we don't do that now. But yeah, it's just very interesting in the hospitality industry because we are sociable and it is acceptable to hug, but you obviously don't hug at head office every day. It's only when you see your colleagues away at other properties or resorts.
Great. That's a very interesting culture. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go on to the next slide as we head up towards 9:15, and I think we have a break at 9:15. This one is arrive on time. And I think as Toastmasters, we typically understand this well. To arrive on time is actually a little bit late because as Toastmasters, we typically need to meet and greet people, get settled before the meeting begins. I do know that I have a colleague, or I know of a colleague who was once late for a very important meeting with Clem Sandra. He was the chairman and the meeting had started, and this person was only 5 minutes late. And as he walked in, obviously the whole room turned around to look, and he said, "Oh, better late than never." And Clem Sandra said, "Never late is better." So he felt about so small, and he was really put in his place, and he was never late again for that particular meeting. But there are times when something happens, and the courteous thing, if you get stuck on the road and you are going to be a little bit late, just to let your host know that you're going to be just a little bit late, you're held up, and then they will understand, totally understand. Another tip that is good to know is that we should be listening and not interrupting. Quite often when we are listening, we're not listening at all. We're actually thinking about a better idea or what it is that we want to say, and that we've missed quite a lot of what the other person is trying to communicate. Luckily for us, we are Toastmasters, so the evaluation and feedback that we do in Toastmasters gives us the tools to actively listen. But that doesn't mean that we always are able to do that. Sometimes that discipline slips a little bit and we interrupt. And then if you realize that you have interrupted, I would say, use the magic words, say, "I'm so sorry. I think I have interrupted what you were saying. Please continue." To have leadership presence, it's about how you make the other person feel. And if they feel that you're not listening, you lose that connection. So this is a very, very important tip. And then finally, and I would say this goes without saying, typically choose your words carefully or choose your words wisely. And that would include no foul language. We don't need to swear to get a point across. And when it makes people uncomfortable, perhaps, or if we're disrespectful and just say something that really hurts somebody, it's not conducive to having a really good relationship. So choose your words wisely. There are so many words in the English language that your words reflect your character. Try and be consistent and courteous and calm and kind. And if you follow these 9 tips, you will easily build relationships and be able to influence people as you lead them to the vision through the mission of whatever it is that you want to do. So there we have it, 9 easily remembered tips, easy to remember, hard to do on a consistent basis. But hopefully we have discussed some of the ways that we can implement these and apply these into our daily lives. Because we are online now, just a little bit about meeting etiquette. And perhaps you'd like to share or think about it during the break of what kinds of behaviors have you seen displayed or even being guilty of while you have been in an online meeting. This meeting looks very productive. Everybody is looking at the person who is speaking and communicating. I don't think that's always the case. So maybe as we head up for the break, and Zivai will be able to guide us here, is the break at 19:15? Then we can just think about some of the things that we've seen on virtual platforms.
Yes, the break is at 19:15. But if you feel you want us to stop here, then pick up after the break. We could break now for the 5 minutes and then continue with the meeting etiquette after that.
That sounds good to me. If everybody is ready for a break and just a refreshment break and a stretch and to come back with all your energy intact so that we just finish off the last part of it.
Great, thank you so much, DTM Sandra. So according to my clock, it's 19:13. So Madam Zoom Master, if we can be back by 19:18, and then we continue from there. I know we've been having questions during the training, so we still do have another 20 minutes after the break. So thank you so much, DTM Sandra. So we'll have our bio break. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, and over to you, DTM Sandra.
Thank you so much. That was a nice quick break, and we're all back in the room and ready to rock and roll. Not rock and roll exactly. I was having a look at the chat and I am so impressed that there is a lot of participation. Thank you so much for that. You are helping each other to totally become the leaders that you are meant to be. So I'm going to share my screen again, just very briefly, and just get back to where we were. Here we go. And I see that we have had somebody in the chat saying that on the virtual platform for Etiquette, can you see my screen? Yes, but it's not from the beginning. Let's just do the slideshow. Sorry, I am just going to have to go through here. So if anybody actually missed something, they will just see it flash by very quickly. And I'm quite sure there is an easier way to do this. Okay, so meeting etiquette. I saw somebody in the chat box say not putting your microphone on mute when you're not speaking. That's a good one that we've seen. What else have we seen? Edith. Yes, Edith.
What I have seen is people, I think, double booking themselves. So you can hear they're in 2 meetings, and sometimes when they are called in one meeting, they can't respond because they are busy in another meeting. So
yes,
that is a bit, wrong.
It's about not being fully present. Thank you. Yes, I have seen that. And we've got 3 participants that have raised their hands. Sivai, can you see who they are? So perhaps you could just call them one by one.
Toastmaster L.E.A.
So for me, something that I had to learn was this icon of raising your hand. So initially when you joined Zoom meetings and people didn't necessarily clarify how the engagement would happen, people would speak over each other. It was something I really had to learn and get used to, and it became something of a habit now. So I think it's something that people need to set the precedent right at the beginning in terms of how they want the meeting to go and to make use of it so that there's actually order and not everyone speaking at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's great. And it's part of the etiquette to raise your hand. Unless if it's a smaller group, you can just, if you're all on the screen, just raise your hand like this, and then the chairman of the meeting could actually ask you to unmute and go ahead. But yes, I think that's a really good etiquette tip, to raise your hand, learn how to do that. Wonderful. Our next Toastmaster, please, Sivai.
There was Toastmaster Hannah, but she put her hand down, so I'm not sure if her point had already been mentioned.
Yes, it was addressed. Thank you very much. It was addressed.
Thank you. So there are many things. Quite often, one of the most important things is to remember that your camera is on and everything that you are doing can be seen. I have seen people having a conversation with their partner, or cats coming across the screen, or drinking wine, or eating, just eating because they have forgotten that they are in full view on the camera. Also, maybe people coming into the room, and depending on where you're living, that might happen from time to time. So those kind of things do occur. I do think, though, it's essential to remember about the camera. My camera, I actually have a sticker over it when I'm not facilitating or training, just in case I'm drinking coffee when I should be actually focusing on a meeting. Those kind of things happen all the time. And I think we learn when it does happen, it's not deliberate. It's just out of respect to others. Perhaps if you're going to be eating, just to put your camera off. Another one that I found quite unsettling is, because it's virtual, when people have given their speeches, they leave, or they've got their feedback and they go to another meeting. And that would never happen in a face-to-face meeting. And I suppose it depends as well how much time you've got. So, maybe don't judge the people, because data costs are very expensive and not everyone can actually afford to be on for a full 2 hours. So I think it is just to be a little bit compassionate and understand that it might happen from time to time. Yes, Toastmaster Hannah.
But I think since we are talking of etiquette, if you are going to leave, you must inform the Zoom master or the Toastmaster of the day beforehand to say, I will only be able to present my speech or to play my role and then leave. It feels like common courtesy to say so, instead of just doing the speech and then leaving, or getting your feedback and then just leaving.
Yes, I do agree. That is good manners and it's good etiquette. Thank you for that. Lovely. There was something else that I just thought about, and something that everyone needs to be very aware of. If you are writing private chats in the chat box, the Zoom master, whoever it is that owns the account, can see all of that private chat. So if you are perhaps making a comment on somebody that you wouldn't say publicly, all that is recorded somewhere in the chat box. So it's about being ethical, being compassionate, not talking about things on a virtual platform that perhaps you wouldn't say to a person face to face. Just be aware that that is there. Lovely. So I did mention that we would talk just a little bit about a reputation. And reputation, it's often said your reputation precedes you. Is this true? What do you think? First of all, what is a reputation? What is your reputation? How do you build your reputation? Yes, Carol Ann.
Hi. Yes, I heard a very good quote. Actually, I think somebody mentioned in their speech, I think it was, what's the chap who founded Amazon? Oh, I've just gone blank.
Jeff
Anyway,
Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, yeah, it was him or one of these entrepreneurial high-flying guys that said, your reputation is what people say about you when you leave the room.
That's a lovely one. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Okay,
how
yeah,
people, lovely.
Mhm.
It's how people perceive you, what they think of you when they look at how you show up, how you treat them, how you behave, how you act, all of those good things. Is your reputation a valuable asset? I think we had 2 raised hands.
Definitely.
Definitely, I heard. Anybody else? And how hard is it? How hard is it to build a good reputation? Toastmaster Wenceslas.
Yes, I wanted to answer the first question where you said, is it important? I think it is important in the sense that it is then a tool you can use to influence people.
Yes, indeed. Lovely. Thank you. And I see we have 3 other participants with raised hands.
Toastmaster Lester. Toastmaster Lester, you have your hand raised. Please unmute.
Yes, thank you. Answering one of the questions, I believe that reputation is like your brand. Once it's like a product, and if it is product that is damaged by it's like damage of the reputation. So to me, if you are you've got a damaged reputation, is similar as when you want now to build your reputation. It's going to take you a long time. We've seen it with a lot of companies that have products that were damaged by certain things that we've done, that it took a long time to build that reputation back. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, your reputation takes a long time to build. It can be destroyed overnight, depending on what happens. And it can be something unfortunate outside of your control. So we typically have to look after our reputations and make sure that the way that we show up is consistent every single time, so that people can say that we act the same consistently all the time, that we care for people, that we are kind and compassionate. Yes, thank you. Anybody else who would like to make a comment on that?
Toastmaster Noma Zulu.
Thank you. Good evening. I just wanted to also respond to the issue of how hard is it to build a reputation. I would like to think that it should not be hard. Your integrity, your consistency, as Sandra has alluded to, is very important. It should be the easy thing to do, but I think the maintenance of a day, that's where the work comes in. Because if you slip up, a fellow speaker has just said that it's very hard to then rebuild that reputation and trust to the audience or the people that are around you with whom you have fallen out with just because of an error that you have made. So I would like to think, just to emphasize again, that it is easy to build a reputation, consistency, integrity, but maintaining it requires a lot of work, trust over time.
Yes, thank you. And I think Patience did tell us in the previous session exactly how to maintain your brand and how and what to post on your social media networks so that your brand and your reputation stay consistent. Thank you. And we have 3 more people with raised hands.
Toastmaster Mubu.
Thank you. Mine is answering on the question when you asked whether one's reputation is an asset. I think it's an asset because if you've got a good reputation, you then are able to get credibility. So with credibility, you can get referrals, you can get referred, whether it's in business or any other circle, which is very important.
Great, lovely. Thank you so much. It's a good point.
Then Toastmaster Penny.
Hi, my dear Toastmasters. I think most have covered.
You have built your reputation well. And
all right, there was an overlap there.
Okay, if you can go ahead, please.
All right. I say with the reputation, to me, it seems like it's it's self-presentation. How you present yourself. I hear most of my toasties are literally referring to something that is of the original you, but it's just how you present yourself, how you'd want people to receive you, and that can be altered any time or any given situation, and how you want to be received, especially by the community or whatever the people or the group that you want to interact with.
Great. Yes, indeed. It is about everything that you say and do. It contributes towards your reputation. And your reputation is what other people see, how they perceive you, from how you show up and how you act and how you behave. Thank you. Patience, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you so much. So you actually touched on something that I wanted to then comment on. It seems that sometimes it's totally not up to me. And when does the other person's view come in? And are there not instances that sometimes it's very hard to then, in terms of the reputation that has been built, if it's negative or if it's not so good, to then try and restore a positive image that people are then still sort of focused on the negative, or if it's something bad or probably something shared that was not true, but that was incorrect, to build on that positive self-image or reputation. So sometimes are we then not stuck with a reputation that does not necessarily depict the true me or who I truly am?
Yes, indeed. And that's a good point. It could well be that somebody has said something or perceived something that is not specifically true. So your reputation is built on how other people see you. So it could be that someone inadvertently or even deliberately may try to damage your reputation for whatever reason. We don't really know. But as long as you consistently show up, demonstrate that you're competent, demonstrate that you have courage, and that you are consistent, then you will be able to restore that reputation. And it does bring me on to the next point, which is about character. Is reputation and character the same thing? What is character? Is it the same as reputation, or is it more important? Or do they both have equal importance?
Sorry, Sandra.
Hello.
Hello. I can't raise my hand, sorry.
Okay.
I'm Rosemary. Yes, I think your character builds your reputation. Whoever you are, it builds your reputation. So it goes hand in hand.
Great. So we are saying it is something different. Yes, but they work consistently together. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Lovely.
Sorry, I also wanted to comment on the reputation thing, the fact that your reputation sometimes is not up to you. It's how people perceive you, you know. And I'm also thinking that probably the environment that you are in, it must align with your values and principles, because sometimes you find that if people don't understand who you are, they tend to misinterpret your behavior and whatever, hence your reputation. So it matters on the type of environment where you are, whether you are in an environment that is in line with your values and your principles.
Great. Yes, I do agree. It does. Your reputation, you can't always control, because it can go pear-shaped if somebody disagrees and gets into something very controversial. But I do agree, your character is internal. It's about what's inside of you. And it is your qualities that you have, and also your core values. It's not something that people can see from the outside. It's what you demonstrate when you act and show up. The actions that you take are typically the actions that support your values. So they are internal to you. They are part of your character. And every single person has different core values, different qualities, and the way that they work together builds your character. I see we have 2 more raised hands.
We have Toastmaster Alicia. Her hand was up during the reputation time, so I'm not sure if it's reputation or character. Please go ahead.
Yes, it's both. So, as you mentioned about the character being what you know about yourself, and reputation is what others know about you. That's how I'm interpreting it. How do you handle when there is a clash of character that forms into misinterpretation of reputation? So say I'm in, as someone mentioned previously, you're in a one group and your reputation is you're a very honest person. Then you go into another group and the same character traits are being displayed, but then it's labeled as a reputation of you're very abrasive. So your character values, you're known for the same thing is being displayed or the same core qualities, but in different settings, different groups, different times, your reputation, the reputation that you receive is different. How do you also balance that line with in regards to people pleasing or you having to be a chameleon to kind of fit into all of these different spheres when you're not really truly being true to yourself, what you know, okay, this is my character, this is who I am. And some of the times the reputation is just not going to be good, not of any fault of your own, but it's just that that just wasn't your tribe or that wasn't the place that you were supposed to be experiencing your core values.
Thank you. Thank you for that question and those points. And it can be that different people perceive you differently. And I feel it's about being authentic. Being authentic, you mentioned, do you have to perhaps be a chameleon to fit in? I think to some extent, you might have to adapt to their style or their culture, perhaps, so that they can see the real you. But you have got to be authentic and stay in touch with your own core values and character. If you're honest and you keep consistently doing actions which are honest, I believe that eventually that they will see that that is part of your character traits, that you can be relied on, you are responsible and you're honest. And it's interesting that different groups or different teams interpret your core values differently. It can just be about perception and how people have been raised, perhaps. And if that does not help, obviously, you could have a candid conversation around a particular issue, but that is something I'm sure that they will cover in this course going further, how to resolve conflict in a candid way, which is mutually beneficial for all concerned. Part of the leadership skills that we all need and we all use from time to time. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Do we have time for another couple of questions? And then perhaps we can have general questions or the assignment or the homework.
Okay, we have Toastmaster Nomazulu. She has her hand
Please.
raised, if you can mute, and then we can then get into the assignments.
Great.
All right, thank you very much. Just a quick one. As character and your reputation are perceived in different manners by different people. Just to say that there's no way that you can control other people's perceptions. They could have a different worldview or a different orientation. And sometimes, even with your best of intentions, people may misread and then therefore label you. Emotional intelligence should kick in, where you're then able to then say, okay, you can accept that I cannot change someone's worldview, but you know, if I'm solid and I'm consistent, it should be reputational damage, and that's a different thing altogether.
Mm-hmm. That's lovely. That's good feedback. Thank you so much for that. And it's quite true, as leaders, we cannot please everyone. Not everyone is going to like us, and we have to do the right thing. If integrity is one of our core values, for example, we have to do the right thing rather than the popular thing. And as leaders, that's sometimes a little bit difficult, but it is part of the leadership track, making those difficult decisions, accepting that not everyone is going to see us in the same light. And it does help to build emotional intelligence so that we can accept that we have differences of opinions. Malili, last one, and then we're going to go into the assignment.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that there are also blind spots that you as a leader might not even be aware of. And I'd like to suggest that there should also be room for feedback and hearing what people have to say, and you introspecting whether you agree or not agree with how they perceive you, because perhaps you are blind. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good point as well. And as leaders, we should be open to feedback that is constructive and not be defensive. And that's what we learn inside Toastmasters as well, to receive that feedback. I see that Francois actually raised a hand, and I know he's been typing. Oh, Francoise. Would you like? Francoise.
How are you? Yes, I was just going to say that when it comes to character, you must be humble. And if you're not humble, it doesn't matter what an idea that would be provided to you, you will not accept it. It does not matter what correction will be given, even as simple as your collar is turned up, it needs to be turned down. You will take it as if the person is trying to take your position because of you not being humble. And if our character does not display humility, then at the end, we will get humiliated.
Great, that's lovely. Yes, I think that is really a good place to finish. It's so true. As leaders, we definitely need to be humble, to have humility. Simon Sinek says that leadership is about caring for the people in your care. And as leaders, we are always looking to the team to make sure that they reach their full potential. It's not about us. We don't have to stand in the spotlight, in the center of the stage. We can get great satisfaction from just seeing other people succeed. So thank you all for your participation. And I know there are some more raised hands. Perhaps if there is a little bit more time at the end, then perhaps we can address them. I am thrilled with the amount of participation we've had on this. I did listen to the other two presentations, so I wasn't quite sure exactly how this was going to go, because I typically don't speak for an hour by myself. I do have this facilitation technique where everybody is involved. So thank you so much for that. Zivai, can I go on to the assignment, something that I will actually send to you so we can put onto the Google Drive? Would that work?
Yes, you can go ahead and talk us through the assignment.
Great. So what we've covered today, we've actually covered quite a lot, but it's mainly around etiquette and how valuable and powerful etiquette actually really is. And if you follow those tips. So we did talk about 9 different ways where etiquette and good manners can show up in your life. So we also talked about first impressions and how to make a lasting impression. So to begin with, what I would like you to do is consider your 5 senses, which are sight, sound, smell, taste, and what's the other one? Hearing. Oh no, we've got that one. The 5 senses. Which one have I missed out? Sight, sound, smell. Touch. That's it. Oh, yeah. That's it. So take some time to consider how you show up, what your style is. Use your 5 senses to see what people see when they get their first impression. Yeah. How do you dress? What colors do you use? Are there any distractions? Is there anything that you would like to change about your style? What would you like to see? And also about sound, all right? What sounds do people hear as you walk around? Do you have dangling jewelry, perhaps not the men, but perhaps for the women? Or have you got music playing, which is loud? Are you listening to your cell phone? What about also your smell? Do you have a pleasant perfume? Is it a good aftershave? Is it overwhelming? Those kind of things. And what about taste? Taste. What tastes do you notice? Have you been perhaps eating garlic, and are you sharing that with everybody around you? And then typically touch. Talk about your social distancing. Do you need to have a big social distancing? Typically, I know we do now in COVID, but perhaps going forward, just learn a little bit and think about personal space for the people that you interact with when you first meet them. So those are some of the things, just to go through all of that. That's the first part, just about your first impression. And then the lasting impressions is about choosing perhaps 2 different etiquette manners that you might like to hone, that you might like to immediately apply into your working environment or your Toastmasters environment. Perhaps something that you're not currently doing, although maybe you're doing all of them. Just to go through the 9 various tips on etiquette and choose 2 that you could start to hone, make them your own, internalize them, and start to build on that lasting impression. All right. And then finally, we have a leadership presence action plan. And I will send this, it's not easy to describe it, but just to talk about target behavior. If there's anything that you want to change in terms of your style, if there's anything that you want to work on in terms of etiquette, think about perhaps some of the things. How do you show up in your virtual environments, and do you have good manners? And I'm sure you do, because it's been excellent this evening. Then think a little bit about your reputation and possibly what your reputation is, how other people perceive you. Are you an extrovert leader? Are you an introvert leader? Are you perhaps a manager rather than a leader? Are you managing tasks and leading people? Think about the reputation and how it currently looks, and maybe anything that you want to work on to make it better or different, not necessarily better. And finally, your character. And you may have done some work on this before, just to really delve deep inside and identify what your core values are. Do they align with the Toastmasters core values? Are there different ones? And how does that make you feel? What is it that's special that makes you authentic and ready to lead the world? Any questions? Gracious, yes, Toastmaster Gracious. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Are we going to have this in writing? Because it's a lot.
It is a lot, yes, it is a lot. But once you get started on it, you will enjoy it. I am confident of that. Yes, I'm going to put it in writing. I'll send it to Zivai. And Zivai, will you be able to put it on the website or the Google Drive?
Yes, what I'll do is I'll put it on the Google Drive. I'll share it in the WhatsApp group as well, and then on our weekly email.
Great, lovely. Right. Thank you.
And how long? Sorry, how long? Pages? The length?
Oh, no, it's not long. It's about introspection. So probably it's only 2 pages where you just have to reflect internally about what has been shared in this training, and look at things that you are going to implement, things that you are doing well, perhaps, and, you know, good tips that you are going to take forward into your leadership journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Then we have Toastmaster How. Your hand is raised.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, DTMZY. Thank you, DTM Sandra, for such an enlightening session. I'm totally thrilled with what we've learned, what I've picked up today. The question I have is on who sets the pace for the changes etiquette-wise. I know we spoke about, you know, a code for a certain group of people, but for example, over the years, from when I started working until now, there are a lot of changes that have happened. Like we couldn't have big hair with color. Now we can have hair with 5 colors. So what sets the pace, or what sets the trend for what is acceptable and not? Would you be able to assist me in this area?
Great. Yeah, that's a good question. So environmental issues do sometimes set the pace, and a relaxing of office, perhaps protocols also, that the office environment has to modernize. You can raise awareness. That's always an opportunity. So if you see something that perhaps needs addressing or that would benefit the organization as a whole or benefit the team that you're in, I do believe that you can raise an awareness of that and then influence perhaps the outcome or get people to actually support the cause, depending on what the cause is. So I do believe as a leader, you can raise awareness, you can approach whoever is in charge if it's not you, and just gather support for whatever it is that you're going to put forward and see if you can make that change, implement that change, have a different action. For example, if you're going to have the big hair, I know you gave that for the example, but any change could be approached in that manner.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Toastmaster Will.
Good evening, Toastmaster Sandra.
Good
Firstly,
evening.
have to apologize. There have been some tech issues which caused me to be late for this session, and I do offer my humblest apologies for that. I will be going through the recording. I must just point out one thing which might interest you. I am a quadriplegic. So when it comes to etiquette, it's one of those things that you go and you do sensitization, you know, in your community around, because it's obviously something which is specific to a certain group of people. And in terms of just having the awareness and knowing what people are comfortable with, it goes a long way. But people don't know just because, you know, it's not a case of you were born knowing exactly what to do. So sometimes you do need to kind of be shown the path. And this is something which I've been doing now for quite some time, which is to say, go around and try and bridge the gap between, you know, the disabled community and the able-bodied peers. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want to feel included, and we all want to feel as though we can contribute.
That's right.
But I really enjoyed your presentation. Just in terms of the homework that you've set, for example, you know, I'm far more comfortable delivering videos. Now, I know I'm probably not in the majority on this, but would that be acceptable for you?
Yes, absolutely. If that is what you're comfortable with, then I'm quite confident that a video would be acceptable. I would love to see it. Yes.
Thank you very much. And again,
You're
thank
welcome.
you for this evening. It was really enlightening.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing with us how you are bridging and making people comfortable. Thank you. Do we have anybody else, or is it it's time to close? DTM Zuvai. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you to everybody who participated. I really value your input, and I hope it has gone some small way to helping you in your leadership journey. Thank you.
Let us send those emojis to thank DTM Sandra for such an engaging session on leadership etiquette. And for me, I picked up quite a lot. And I think with the homework that she's given us, we'll be able to actually look inside of ourselves and see what we need to work on, where we need to improve. And like I said last week, to teach is to learn twice. Let's not keep this information to ourselves. Let's go back to our clubs when there are opportunities to do educationals, or even just part of the business section of our meetings, to give that feedback and those tips to our members. So I want to thank you so much, DTM Sandra, for your time and for you availing yourself and preparing and even giving us the homework, the assignments that we need to work on, for us to then impress on ourselves what you shared with us this evening. And we do not take lightly your investment in us Toastmasters and even in our personal lives as well, because these are transferable skills that you are sharing with us. And in terms of announcements, we are back to meeting on Saturday. So next week, Saturday, we have our session, Emotional Intelligence and Conflict Management. And I know DTM Sandra did mention that those are key aspects of leadership development and that we would be covering them, and we're actually covering them next week. So make sure that next week, Saturday, you are joining us at 6 p.m. Central Africa time. And also to encourage all of you, even if you're not a recipient of an award, a Level Up award, tomorrow, this 24, please still register and join in and let us cheer on and support and just to celebrate those that were able to level up. If you're not one of those being celebrated, tell yourself, my turn is coming, so that in the next quarter and also the 6 months next year, work on your triple crown, work on moving up the levels. And let's really make this personal development journey something that we've taken full responsibility for, because as we achieve our goals, our clubs are also achieving their goals. So we look forward to joining with you tomorrow for the Hall of Fame event, and to our friends of District 74 that are with us from District 32, those from Antigua, Montserrat, also extending the invitation to you to join us tomorrow evening. If you're not available, we'll see you for our 4th session next Saturday, the 23rd of October. If you don't yet have an accountability partner, please make sure you inbox the administrators of the WhatsApp group, and we'll make sure that you do have an accountability partner, you are matched with somebody. Having said that, it is exactly 2000 hours and our meeting is adjourned. If we can turn on our cameras, our videos, our Zoom masters would want to take our photos, our group photo for our session number 3. So if we can turn on our videos, and thank you to Toastmaster Sigrid for our photos for this evening. So since we don't know when your slide or your page is coming up, keep a permanent smile. Keep on smiling. I'm sure Toastmaster Sigrid is still taking photos. She'll let us know when she's done. So keep on smiling. Because with over 80 participants, I'm sure she'll keep going, and I can see the photos. She's very quick. I'm already receiving them.
Okay, thank you. I'm done. More than welcome to leave.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, depending on where you are, what it is. For those in a different time zone, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Organizers, you rock.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I have to leave.
Thank you.
As I'm not up to another meeting. Okay, thank you. Bye.